Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video we are working on these two MCM chairs that I found by the side of a dumpster. So I threw them in the back of my truck and I brought them to my workshop. As you can see, the condition was questionable. There was some weird fabric going on. They had plastic that was peeling away. There were a few scuffs and paint marks throughout this piece, and the legs were pretty wobbly because there's a piece of wood actually missing on one of the chairs. I thought I would test my skills and see what we can do to these chairs to make them look new again. Let's get started by taking the chairs apart. So there are supposed to be two screws going up into the chair, but they must be under the fabric going down into the chair, which isn't right. But let's take this fabric off and see what we're dealing with. You know, this piece wasn't made yesterday when there's so many layers of fabric. Well, here are the screws that were going down into the chair. After the first chair, of course, we had to do the second chair as well, but I'll make this one a little bit quicker so you don't have to watch the full process again. Finally, all the fabric is off, and that took a little bit longer than expected. I'm going to use Crud Cutter. This is a degrease cleaner, and I'm going to spray it and rub it all over the piece. It's good to clean up your piece before you start scraping and sanding so you don't smudge any of that dirt into the wood. So when you stain, it comes out nice and clean. I started with scraping with my carbide scraper, then hand sanded with 120, but there were deep scratches into the wood that I just couldn't get out, so I had to use my random orbital sander, and it worked best. Eventually I had all the old finish off one chair and it was time to remove it from the other, but we'll do this one quicker. And eventually we were done sanding. If you didn't catch my last video, I mentioned that I'm now renting a garage workshop space, and if you want to support my channel, all I ask you is if you like my videos, subscribe and follow along. It means so much and it will support my journey. Thanks, and let's continue on with the video. After everything is smooth after sanding, we are going to start staining. I like to throw some screws in here on the top here. It's just going to help me hold on to something so I don't have to hold where I'm applying the stain. I'm using General Finishes Antique Brown water-based stain. It's my first time using a water-based stain by General Finishes. I didn't know what to expect, but it is similar to a gel stain, which I thought was pretty cool. I enjoy using gel stain, so I just lathered this all over the wood and then I just wiped it off. I did wipe as much stain off as I could with the rag I was staining with, but I did grab a fresh rag as well to make sure to wipe it all once again, just to make sure there were no smudges of stain left on there. After wiping, I could tell it was drying pretty quick and the color was getting lighter. Anyway, I continued and stained the entire 2 chairs. You are probably wondering, what am I doing with this random chair? Well, as you know, there is a piece missing on one of the chairs. So I found this chair at a thrift store. It was $1 and I thought I could use it for scrap woods. So I'm going to use the front of this chair and I'm going to get it ready and prepare it to use on the MCM chairs we are working on. So this is the piece I'll use. I'm using a clamp-on vise and I'm going to connect to my table, and it will be a perfect way to hold on to the piece of wood that I'm going to be shaping. So I need to make this piece of wood look like that piece of wood. So I'm going to shape it with using a pencil here, and then I'm going to use a new tool I've never used. I believe it's called a spoke shape, and we are going to connect it to the clamp-on vise, and I'm going to shape the wood just like this. So enjoy the process. I think the shape turned out pretty good. But I must say, the spoke shape does make a bit of a mess, but it's worth it because that tool is a lot of fun. So you might have noticed these holes that were in this piece of wood that I shaped, and I'm covering them in with walnut wood filler. The small holes I had no issue with. I didn't think they were going to be a problem, so filling them in was no problem at all. But the bottom had big holes that I was just going to fill with the DAP wood filler. However, I made a mistake and I cut the wood wrong, and these big holes are actually on top, but I did not realize until I was going to put the chair together later on. So I did make a mistake here, forgive me. Anyway, it is time to protect this piece. I'm using water-based polyurethane. This is my go-to option, and I like applying it with a foam applicator. This thing is so easy to apply with. You just put it on the foam applicator and then you wipe it on, and you just want to make sure you get a nice smooth end-to-end finish when you wipe it. After the wood filler dried, I came back, sanded everything smooth, and then I applied my stain. And then the poly when the stain dried. The pieces look pretty similar, I must say. Now it's time to move on to reupholstering the seats and seat backs. I don't really have much experience with this, so don't roast me in the comments. I'm using this product called Liquid Stitch. I rubbed it on and then I attached my batting and then I stapled it on as well. I chose to apply 2 layers of batting just to give it more cushion. So I didn't have much of a plan for these seat backs, so I was just kind of going with the flow and whatever came up in my mind. So I attached the batting on the front and the back, and then I was getting to stapling the fabric on. I was making sure it looked good on the front and then stapling it all around on the back as best as I could. And when I finished that, I threw more padding over that, and then I was just going to attach the fabric on the back, roll it over, and then I am actually doing what is called blind stitching, and I've never done this before in my life, so I just kind of went for it, and I'm not going to say it turned out amazing, but it got the job done, so bear with me on it. The corners were the hardest part when blind stitching. They kind of made it hard to do. But anyways, I just moved on to the seats on the bottom and attached them, and then I was going to cover them up with this fabric protector cover that goes over the bottom, hides all the cuts and the staples that I use, and it just makes it look cleaner. And finally, after lots of work, it was time to start putting these chairs back together. For the new piece I shaped, I had to drill some holes for the dowel so I can connect it to the chair. Eventually I got both seats back together. And finally, let's take a look at these two chairs one more time. Before, with the missing pieces, the dirty old fabric, we ended up doing a nice bit of work on these two chairs that were free. So I had a lot of fun, learned a few things along the way. It was definitely a challenge, but this is how they turned out. So here are what the backs look like. You can see I did my best. They're not perfect. They're not the worst thing in the world, but they got the job done. It was a lot of fun doing this project. The screws are still mismatched, and I am ordering a set that will make them all match. So here's the piece down bottom. That's the original, and this is the one that I shaped. As you can see, the two holes that are from the other chair where the screws went up are on top, and I meant to put them on bottom, but I did make a mistake. Do you think I have to fix it before I sell it, or do you think I can get away with it? If you enjoyed this video, please let me know, subscribe to the channel, and don't miss out on my future videos. See you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.